Namaste. Good to see you guys. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, and we're just kind of all in this together. And so I thought I would just kind of share some of the things that are going on with me, do a little bit of kirtan with you guys, just kind of connect. And um, I feel like there's been a lot of just change happening in my life, and a lot of different many levels this last few months. And it's been interesting to learn how to move through change in this sort of state of grace and ease, and learning, to accept change, learning to get beyond some of the expectations that I have, some of the attachments to people, to things, to certain routines or things being a certain way. In sort of allowing myself to accept more of where things are at. What can I interact with? What do I have influence over? What can I change? What can I do to sort of interact with the rhythm of my life at this current time? And it's been so interesting to just observe my own sort of inner cycles and sort of the habits and sort of loops that I sometimes will find myself in, and being able to essentially break myself of those cycles. If I find that I'm sort of in a certain state of being or a certain state of consciousness that is not necessarily serving me, maybe I've gotten a little anxious, or maybe I'm a little bit emotional about something, just feeling that, fully allowing myself to be in that, because I'm not trying to stifle it, but allowing myself to interact with that in a way in which that doesn't take possession over me, in which that doesn't sort of take control of my consciousness to such a point that eventually I'm just feeding this thing that sort of becomes almost like a monster. It becomes this thing that's really hard for me to interact with and to sit with, especially at a time when we all have a lot more time on our hands, to really sit with ourselves, to sit with our families, to sit with maybe select friends, and sort of really our rhythm has been interrupted, right? So for many of us, our day-to-day routine is different. Our sort of knowingness of what is supposed to happen next, there's a big kind of question mark on what we're all kind of doing right now. But the beautiful thing about that is that it kind of says, hey, all the things that you think about your future, all the things that you think you can grasp onto, let them go. Because there's no way of knowing, there's no way of really being able to say for sure, hey, we're going to do this in 2 weeks, or hey, we're going to do this in a month, or whatever. I think it's really a beautiful invitation to just allow ourselves to be fully present in our experience right now, and to really ask yourself, what is important to me? What now that I'm no longer so busy that I can't think, what really does fulfill me? What really does make me happy? What really is contentment to me? And am I truly content and happy in my life, or am I content in discontent? And learning how to essentially take control of these things, because I think it's very easy to kind of put ourselves in this state of being where we find ourselves as the victim. We're like, why is life happening to me? Why is, all of these changes occurring? We feel sort of powerless or sort of helpless. But that's actually not true. Yes, the unexpected happens all the time in our life, but ultimately we are 100% accountable to defining the quality of our life, to defining whether my life is joyful and pleasurable, or my life is suffering and all these other things. Every experience, we have this sort of right or left decision that we can choose, and it's not always that clear. It's not always, if I go right, there's going to be pleasure. If I go left, there's going to be suffering. But we do get to choose whether or not we settle into an experience and embrace all that it has to offer me, even if it's not something I fully understand or I'm comfortable with, not something that I was expecting. And just let yourself be present in it and be like, okay, universe, I may not get what's happening right now. I may not understand the lesson that you're trying to teach me. I may not see what's being offered to me, but please reveal that to me. Reveal that to me. What is it that I'm supposed to be learning right now? What is it that I can be taking advantage of? And right now, we're moving into spring. For those of us that might be here in Iowa and that kind of stuff, just feeling this sort of energy of new activity, new life, change. And change, isn't always comfortable, because we're kind of creatures of habit. We like the familiar. We like to connect to things that we really feel, understanding of, that we feel like, I have a really clear grasp of this. It's very black and white. There's no gray area. There's no sort of fear that allows, there's no doubt, because we feel very confident. But the thing is like, we have to sort of challenge ourselves to feel out our edges. We have to challenge ourselves to be like, what can I do with these experiences? How can I transmute the energy that I'm feeling? If I'm feeling sad, do I just dwell in sort of the prongs of sadness and let myself go deeper and deeper into that to a point where it's no longer constructive? Or do I become witness to my experience and I'm like, okay, so I'm sad. Well, why am I sad? What am I really feeling? What is really, causing me this sensation to sit in my chest, or is causing me to come into this sort of state of thinking and being? And I think as we start to interact with stuff, we can begin to sort of recognize where things are, where it's our sort of doing, where it's like, oh, I'm feeding into a cycle, or I'm feeding into a loop of like, I'm sad. So then I'm like, well, I want to be more sad. I want to go deeper into that sadness. But that's nice too sometimes, because that sometimes allows us to process things. It allows us to cry, to let out some of that emotion that we're feeling. But then there's also this sort of accountability to like, oh, like, well, actually, the things that I'm sad and upset about right now, the things that I feel maybe ashamed of or guilty about, or are sometimes these sort of outward perceptions. There are sort of cultural and societal upbringing. It's our religious and spiritual upbringing. It's our parental influence, our friend influence as a whole. And sort of recognizing, what is me and what is these things that I'm sort of paying homage to that are outside of me. And those things that are outside of us, we have no control over, because they're not us. They're just that. They're outside of us. But we choose how those things interact with us. We choose how much influence all of this external perception, all this projected reality that we experience from others. And this is where, most of us get caught in this sort of, oh my God, I need to be upset about this, or I need to, fulfill this sort of obligation, even when it doesn't speak true to where I'm at. And really being able to sit with that and just being like, oh, actually, I don't owe anything to anybody. I don't have to do anything. And once we can break out of that, then we can start to do things from a place of like, oh, this is actually really what I want to do. When I think about going to the gym, or think about doing yoga, or going on a run, or maybe practicing my guitar, or maybe reading a book, when I make it just another thing on the list that I have to check off, it kind of takes the joy out of it, right? You become in this sort of thing where like, okay, so I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. And it's all of this assumes that you're going to have the same level of consciousness throughout the day. It's going to be one constant thing. I'm going to go like, okay, so at 5 p.m., I'm going to go do this, and then I'm going to make that happen, and I'm going to make that happen. But I'm making this decision at, say, 10 a.m. in the morning. And it doesn't really hold space for the person that's who I'm going to be at 5 p.m. So I think that when we're in this time period of just sort of introspection, it really does invite us to just sit with ourselves and sit with our experience, being like, okay, what am I feeling right now? I feel a certain type of energy in my body. Maybe it's a little active, maybe it's a little bit more docile, and then be like, okay, so what is my body trying to tell me right now? Maybe my body's saying, you know, you need to take a nap. Or maybe it's saying, oh, you know what, you could actually use a little food or a little bit more water. Maybe I need to just rest. Maybe I need to go on a walk out in nature. Maybe I do want to do some yoga. Maybe I want to play some music. Maybe I just want to get up and dance and have fun. You know, so it's, or maybe it's binge watching a television show. You know, that is all acceptable. Those are all great. You know, but rather than trying to say like, hey you, Justin, you need to do what I'm telling you to do right now. I don't care if you're not feeling it anymore at 5 p.m. You've got to do it. Well, when I do that, it's like I become like a scolding parent. And then, say 5 p.m. rolls around and I decide, oh, you know what, I actually don't want to do yoga, or I don't do it, then I actually feel guilty, or I feel ashamed that I didn't do this thing, this expectation that I created for myself. But it's just that I created it for myself. So while I created this desire, I also created this sort of rebounding suffering because I couldn't meet my own expectation. And I think that just comes from a place of not really allowing ourselves to be present. It comes from putting ourselves in this box that says, I have to be this way. I cannot be an evolving and contradictory person. You know, because I think that all of us, when you really connect to the essence of the most truest things in your life, often you will find that they are paradoxical or contradictory by nature. They exist both in and without. They are everything and they are nothing. And that's one of the most beautiful things about spirituality, or these practices of essentially really connecting to our beliefs or connecting to our ways of thinking. It's, you know, finding what is true to you in this moment, and fully accepting and embracing that, but also fully accepting and embracing that in the next moment you might embody a different truth that is in contradiction to the truth of the past moment. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things, but we really beat ourselves up about that. We're like, well, why am I not doing this? Why can't I just meet this thing? But the thing is that we're planting seeds. You know, we're planting these seeds of thought, these seeds of practice. And every single day is going to be different. Every single day is going to be a new sort of date with Maya, a new sort of date with ourselves. And like, who am I today? Who is Justin of this morning? Who is Justin of this evening? And who is Justin of tomorrow? Because those all three might be different people. Yes, the core of me is the same, but ultimately my needs, my wants, my thoughts and desires, all of these things are going to be very different from moment to moment. And we often reject that evolution. We reject being exactly where we are, and we reject receiving others or receiving other experiences where they're at. You know, so we're always trying to make everything meet us rather than trying to meet it. You know, there's this whole integration, you know, like many of us, especially with our spiritual or sort of paths or something like that, we often project ourselves onto it. We often try to make it more like us than trying to make ourselves more like it. And it creates sort of these, you know, moments of discomfort where we're just too hard on ourselves, you know, and we create this whole thing that we can't really meet. But again, we created it. You know, so we have this power to put these things in our lives. We also have this power to sustain them in our lives. And we have the power to remove them, to destroy them, to clear the path. You know, so the way to do that is to tap into our own inner intuition, and to trust in that, and to not doubt ourselves. Any thought, you know, if I'm on a path, the moment doubt enters my mind, it veers off. And even if I return to that path, I often keep moving forward, because life doesn't just stop. You know, it's not like time just stops happening. We keep moving forward whether we want to or not. So if I start to doubt myself, all of a sudden the path is zigzagging all over the place, and I don't feel grounded in it. It's hard for me to grasp onto. You know, so we have to really trust in ourselves, and then be graceful with ourselves during times of change. Because there are going to be moments of discomfort. There are going to be moments of sadness. Because we're like, why can't I do the things that I want to do? Why can't I do some of these different habits. Many of us are like, I wish I could just go out and be with people right now. I want to go dancing. I want to go do all this stuff. And it's very hard. And I could, for the next month, be like, woe is me. Why? Why, world? Why would you do this to me? And I could exist in the misery of it for the next however long. Or I can be like, okay, well, I can't do that, but what am I being offered right now? What is the universe saying? Okay, well, I might not be able to go dancing out with everybody in the world right now at a bar or at a show or whatever. But the other day I was teaching a class online via Zoom, and it was so beautiful. At the end of the class, we all just danced together in our homes to a song. And it was like the most beautiful thing. What cool thing that we can do by, connecting each other through these online mediums, that we can be in each other's space and just really do that, And so I think that what it does is it challenges us to tap into our creative energy. And it says, okay, so like I might not be able to rely on some of my normal things for escape or release or refuge. But that's kind of a good thing, isn't it? To get out of some of these habits, get out of some of the easy things we go to, like binge watching television. One of my dearest friend, Willow, gave me a wonderful challenge throughout this month to just not watch any type of television. Sure, if I'm social with people, I can do whatever. But when I'm alone, not to let myself just go into distraction. Because I think often when we're sitting with ourselves, rather than sitting with ourselves and moving through sort of the ups and downs of this energy, we try to escape from it. We run from it. We're like, okay, I got to immerse myself in somebody else's life. I got to immerse myself in television. I got to immerse myself in that. And it kind of prevents us from really experiencing what it is that we're going through right now. And we kind of rob ourselves of that. And so often, when we start to feel anxious, we start to feel like, that dog, energy where it's like, you're pacing back and forth, like, what do I do? A lot of times what I'm discovering is that that's just unexpressed creative energy. It's this desire for an outlet to essentially channel the energy that we're feeling inside of ourselves. And it might be just giving somebody a call. It might be just going on a walk. And a lot of what my practice has been lately is just recognizing when I'm in a loop, recognizing when I'm in a cycle, and then giving myself permission to interrupt the rhythm, to just divert the energy. So it's like, if I'm feeling discontent and I'm just in my head, just dancing around the same thing, my thoughts, it's all swimming around up there. I have to break it. Otherwise, I'm never going to come into a constructive place again. I'm just going to be boom, boom, boom. I'm just going to be in it. And then it just gets worse and worse and worse until like I beat it up so much that all I can possibly desire to do is to escape. I'm mentally and emotionally and spiritually and physically exhausted. So just like giving ourselves permission that like maybe I'm doing something right now. So maybe I'm trying to learn a song and I start to get frustrated. As many musicians know, one of the best things you can do is just set it down. Just set down the instrument, walk away from it, and you're going to come back an hour later, you're going to come back the next day, and also you're going to be like, oh wow, like this is just, it makes sense now. I mean, it's the same if you're playing video games, it's the same for anything. Every time you run into a problem, Einstein says that we can't solve a problem from the same state of consciousness that created it. I think that's really, really important to remember when we find ourselves in these moments of dis-ease or discomfort, that we just got to interrupt the rhythm. We're just going to, and all of a sudden now I'm going to do something else. I'm going to shelf it for a second. And then usually when I can shelf it for a second, it allows me to move out of the role of experiencer and into the role of observer simultaneously. So I can start to look at my experiences from these various vantage points and really start to take in my experience wholesomely. And then I can have the insight to be like, oh, okay, what are you trying to offer me right now? What is available to me right now? I mean, I may not be able to go and do this, but I can do this. And I think that's where we can recognize that, it's our responsibility to create joy for ourselves right now. It's our responsibility to live well. It's our responsibility to connect in the way that we wish to connect and to do the things that we wish to do. You know, no one else is going to do it for you. You know, you can't expect someone else to fulfill all your needs, all your desires. It's just not going to work that way. You know, and once we realize that we're accountable to the, essentially, again, quality of our life, then while that's difficult to chew on, because we always want to make an excuse, it's got to be somebody else's fault, it's got to be there's some sort of scapegoat out there, right? You know, but that really isn't the case, you know. And once you realize that the ball is in your court, then you can begin to play, and you can begin to really take charge of that. And you can be like, oh, actually, you know, as I observe something, so it's like I enter into an experience and I'm like, as soon as that experience finishes, or maybe while I'm even in it, I can be like, oh, actually, you know, this doesn't really jive with me. This creates some friction. What is my discomfort? Why does this not really speak to me? Or why, oh man, I finished doing that, it was so good. It just felt like the whole world was lifting me up. Everything felt amazing. I was able to share so much about myself. I was able to learn. I had such beautiful experiences, you know, and just being able to take time to recognize that and then to hold space for that in yourself and being like, okay, giving yourself permission, like, oh, actually, you know, doing this for you in this way doesn't serve me. This actually doesn't bring me real joy. It actually takes away from me. When I'm done doing that for you, it actually makes me feel a little empty. It makes me feel a little drained, a little stressed. I also noticed that leading up to doing this, I feel a little anxious, or I feel there's a certain amount of dread or sort of fear of like what's going to happen next. You know, and being able to be honest with ourselves about that kind of stuff and being able to communicate it to each other, I mean, honestly, it solves so much of the problem. It's just that, you know, being able to truly sit with ourselves and honestly just be in it and be like, I'm uncomfortable right now. I don't feel good. Or I do feel good and I want more of that. And, you know, so there's a real aspect of this of just being honest with ourselves and just being able to be willing to go through these sort of ebbs and flows kind of gracefully. And I think a lot of it comes down to just letting go of some of our rigidity in our expectations and our sort of perceptions of how we think things should or should not be. You know, and I think that the way to find ourselves in a place of just greater ease is to just really sit back, let yourself be present, and just accept, you know, the way that things are being offered to you. And even if it's something you don't like, I'm not saying you should accept something you don't like. You know, I think there's a certain amount of like, yes, I'm going to accept that this is happening to me. I'm going to accept and I'm going to process that energy, but I'm not going to hold on to it. There's a very fundamental difference. There's a sort of receiving something, but it's allowing it to keep flowing through you. You know, so like if I'm reacting in this way, I can hold on to it, and then I can create a cycle. I can create a whole loop that I can dive into. I can become angrier and angrier. I can become sadder and sadder. Or I can just hold space for some of these energies that are entering myself, and then I can then transmute them. I can allow them to flow through me. I can experience this sort of transparency that we have with each other, this sort of dance and this ebb and flow. You know, in martial arts, they often kind of talk about this push and pull concept. This idea of when you meet force that's pushing you, you hold space for it and you take it back. And if you're being pulled, then you push forward. You know, so it's really learning how to dance with these different emotions and energies that we're having during this time, because it is a lot to really sit with ourselves. So I'm going to do one chant to the Guru, and this chant is Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Saksha Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. And what this is saying is that, you know, to the Guru, to the teacher within me, that is the Guru, the revealer of light, the one who takes me from darkness into light. You who is Brahma, the creator, you who is Vishnu, the preserver, you who is Maheshwara, the destroyer, may that aspect of myself become fully embodied. May I recognize that I have the ability to create, I have the ability to sustain, and I have the ability to remove things from my life. And really embodying that, embodying your own inner teacher, your own inner wisdom, and really trusting in that, and really trusting that you know what's best for you. You are the only one that can know what's best for you, because you're the only one that truly knows you inside and out. Yes, we can seek guidance and we can seek support from everyone in our lives, but still ultimately it comes down to us. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink, right? So we have to be accountable to ourselves, accountable to the quality of our lives. So we're going to sing this Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara song. And then I'll do an Om Namah Shivaya to the Guru. That is Satchitananda, so truth, consciousness, and bliss. So again, these are all aspects of ourselves. This is our true nature, this higher vibrational aspect of us, and we possess this power. So I really invite you to connect to that, and if you'd like, you can chant along. I'll chant through it a handful of times, and we'll do that. Devo So all of the potential, all of the beauty in the universe, I am also part of that. And if I am just a product of that, then I am too also whole. This is the classic mantra. It goes Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. May there be peace, peace, peace. So I'm going to do a few more chants here for you guys, and this next chant is going to be to Ganesha. So what we're going to do with inviting in Ganesh is that we're going to essentially tap into our ability to overcome obstacles, to embrace change. And this is a time when there's a lot of change. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're trying to figure it out. So I just invite you to connect to Ganesh and really connect to that aspect of you that can overcome anything. Those moments when you're feeling at your most powerful, you're like, I can do anything right now. If I encounter even the most deeply rooted tree in the jungle, I'm just going to move it out of the way, move it out of my path. So really connect in with that right here. So begin with Om, the cosmic sound, the first syllable. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. Sharavana Baba, Sharavana Baba, Sharavana Baba, Pahimam. Subramanya, 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 Rakshamam. Sharavana Baba, Sharavana Baba, Sharavana Baba, Pahimam. Subramanya, 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 Rakshamam. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. Do not disturb does not work. Ganesha Sharanam, Sharanam Ganesha, 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 Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Jaya Ganesha, Pahimam. Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Sri Ganesha, Rakshamam. So I really invite you guys, as you're kind of moving through today, just to do something that really brings you joy. Do something that interrupts the cycle of being sort of pent out and held up in that energy. You know, just go out and walk. You know, listen to some music, dance. You know, really, I cannot say how much dance is just such a beautiful thing. You know, just play some music in your house and goof around, be silly, play together. You know, take this time to really play and really connect in with your inner child, your inner joy, that love and just beauty. And with that, so I'm going to take us into a chant, Hare Krishna. It's kind of a, you know, I think this is a really beautiful chant of just kind of connecting to the love of self, connecting to the joyfulness of life. Ram, who is the embodiment of all pleasure, and Krishna, who is the embodiment of the whole universe, that is all bliss. You know, so I really, you know, invite you guys just to find these things within yourself. Find what makes you joyful, find what makes you blissful, and really hone in on that. Really find that for yourself. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this next chant we're going to do one more to kind of end off the day. So I really invite you guys to come into this sort of chant, this intention for us all. And it's essentially it's a loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. And it's may all beings be happy and free. And may my every action, thought, and word essentially contribute to that happiness and freedom. And then we're also going to do is an Om Shanti Salam Shalom Amen. And essentially this is a peace and prosperity. You know, that's what we all wish for each other, all around the world. Every religious tradition, every person, you know, really just wishes for people to come and be the happiest that they can be, to live the most beautiful and vibrant life that they can possibly live. You know, and we let that get covered up with all of these heady things, with all of these fears, expectations, attachments, worries, anxieties. You know, we let that to be taken away from us. You know, so I really invite you, find your happiness and be in that. Tell people that you care about how much you love them. Tell yourself how much you love yourself. You know, really take time to step out of fear, to step out of doubt, and really embody who you wish to be. There's no one else you have to be right now. Anybody but yourself is a lie. No one wants anything more than who you are And who you are is good enough. Who you are is what you should be. And so I really invite you to find that and to really be in that and to share that, really share your truth, communicate, express yourself, really come into that space. So thank you guys so much for joining me. We're going to do this Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Feel free to sing along with me in your living rooms, wherever you might be. Shanti Om, 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 Salam, Shalom, Amen. Om 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 Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you all find a sense of grace and ease and joyfulness in this time period of transitions and change. I hope that we all can find fluidity in our life, in letting go of our expectations, our fears, our attachments, our worries, and really coming into a place where we truly honor ourselves and each other and come from this place of unconditional love, acceptance, understanding, and really trying to communicate and hear each other and express and receive our own truth, but also the truth of others. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I will see you all soon. Namaste.